All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week of The Spawn. Today, we definitely have a special guest for you, and that is going to be Path, who many of you guys will know as one of the many geniuses in the COD mobile comp scene, whether it be for meta overall, rule changes. Really gets into the nitty gritty stuff, and Path, you do some YouTube as well, yeah?
Used to.
Used to? All right. Well, if you get back into doing that,
Not
we'll
so
make
much
sure.
right now, but yeah.
All right. Well, we'll still plug Path's YouTube and make sure you guys can see the kind of content he deals with. It's very in depth. And of course, over there on the end, bold and in blue, we have the pantsless verdict.
I am 100% not wearing pants, but I'm 100% wearing pants, and we are here to rock and roll. So definitely going to be an exciting night. I know we have a lot to cover, and certainly, shaking up the whole scene with what's coming around the corner, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some big changes coming into this season, as well as some more recent changes. And Path, I know you used to keep up a lot on the competitive scene, and you have some things in the works that we obviously won't go too into depth. But um, have you kept up on this season's rule changes?
I saw a bunch of them. I saw a bunch of pro players discussing the rule changes and venting some venting some of their concerns about it. I think overall we are moving towards the right direction, but in very small steps. There are certainly goods and bads about this rule change, and in the coming months, I think that will be reflected to the maximum degree.
Yeah, I think some of the big ones are going to be the most notable, and me and Verta can definitely, because we cast the events, really firsthand give how much better the 250 hardpoint and the 200 DOMs are. Would you agree, Verdict, that we have better matchups and have seen some phenomenal late game comebacks that we just wouldn't have seen happen in 150 hardpoints and 200 DOMs?
No, I'm completely on board. I absolutely love the 250 hard points. I think it allows the game to develop. I think it allows maps like firing range to keep a certain degree of competitive integrity. Obviously, you get into a rotation where that first and second, third hill just kind of connect dots. I mean, it's a no brainer for a map like that, and it's uniform across now. So I'm loving that rule set. I'm loving how the game develops. I love how the storylines progress. I love the retakes. I love the operator abilities. And overall, I think, as Pat said, I think we are making a step in the right direction. It's small baby steps at a time, though.
Yeah, and Path, I think you'll probably connect to kind of this next breakdown of the overall game mode changes. Obviously, you did some work with NYSL Mayhem last year, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would have been real in depth on some of the maps that are a little bit more finicky, and we have had some major map changes. So for Hardpoint, our available list is Crossfire, Hackney Yard, Standoff, Summit, Firing Range, Takeoff, and Raid. For Search and Destroy, we're looking at Hackney Yard, Crossfire, Firing Range, Takeoff, Raid, and Standoff. And Domination, I think, is the biggest one because there were a lot of really one sided maps that I think you're going to notice are taken out of the mix here. The most notable going to be no Hackney Yard Dom and no Crossfire Dom, which does leave us with Raid, Summit, Standoff, Firing Range, and Takeoff. And I think the map pool this season is quite a bit more competitive that way.
Yeah. I think there are some other maps that we could be trying out, but for now, this map pool seems good enough.
I would love to actually have you give us your opinions on that and what thoughts you have on other maps that would be introduced in and for what game mode.
I think Sawmill is a great map. Zim has been talking about it for a while. I think Sawmill plays great in respawn, especially for hardpoint, just because the rotation kind of makes sense. Except for P4. P4 kind of has weird spawns, but every other hill, you have the cover, you have the different flank routes. It just overall makes sense. And I played Icebreaker a little bit last season. it didn't float my boat as much, probably because the boat crashed. For Hacienda this season, I think Hacienda is a nice map, but I forgot what it was played in BO4. I think it was played on Control, but we don't really have Control right now, so I'm kind of debating on that.
Yeah, and I am trying to double check when Hovac Sawmill originally came out. I believe it was in Modern Warfare
Yeah,
2019.
it
19,
was
right?
in Modern Warfare.
Yeah,
But
original or DLC map for or
yeah,
season 3 map for Modern Warfare 2019. Yeah.
yeah, it was a DLC map. People just tend to write Modern Warfare maps as being really bland and boring. But the thing is, because Modern Warfare maps are so big, and COD Mobile is a 5v5 game, 5v5, the difference between 5v5 and 4v4 is that 5v5 we are a lot more chaotic, and with how our spawns currently work, people tend to spawn closer to the points. Having a bigger map like Sawmill kind of just balances out the chaos. Like, it's pretty visible in Hackney Yard. Hackney Yard is a medium-sized map for Modern Warfare standards, and for COD Mobile, I think Hackney Yard plays really nice in Hardpoint just because you have a lot of angles to check, and almost every kind of weapon seemed to work in that map.
I could agree with that. What about you, Verdict?
No, I'm 100% on board. I mean, you know, it brings the next question. You know, it's a bigger map in comparison to Hackney Yard, but how does it stack up against something like a Crossfire, which is already in a competitive, play for Hardpoint and Search and Destroy? For right now, there have been some debate about that particular map being pretty much useless in Hardpoint, but in Search and Destroy, I enjoy. I don't know if that's something that you could kind of compare to and make it. For me, I haven't played Havoc Sawmill. I've seen the gameplay. I absolutely love it.
You really
I
haven't
am
played
all for it.
Havoc?
I haven't played Havoc. I have watched Bobby play Havoc, and I've enjoyed watching him play.
Did you play it on Modern Warfare 2019 though?
No, I played it on Modern Warfare 2019,
Okay,
but I haven't played
okay,
it on
okay.
COD Mobile.
That's where I was confused. I was like, really?
No. I played it on Modern Warfare. Um, I haven't played it on COD Mobile yet, and that's kind of where, in comparison to a map like Crossfire, which is absolutely huge.
I think the thing about Crossfire is, for Hardpoint, it's just a long game about rotation, because Crossfire, you're not really going for the, like, kills don't matter as much. What you really want are the interception kills, or the kills that break you the hills, because Crossfire hills are not very easy to break and extremely easy to hold, I'll say. And the hills are very, very far away, and the spawns kind of just don't work in your favor when you lose it. I don't think it's very good for hardpoint domination. I just don't think domination is that great for competitive in general. As for Search and Destroy, I can understand the appeal of Crossfire and Search and Destroy just because this is a long range map and snipers are going to get to play in this. And snipers are very dominant. Like, we've seen very good snipes in this map, especially I remember Little B pulling a 1v4 with a sniper in Crossfire. So that was something I think that would interest the viewers. But from a competitive standpoint, Crossfire, you have so many angles to check. You can move into a room and you need to worry about getting shot from the back because someone could flank you. You need to worry about someone spawning in front of you. You need to worry about some other room next to you. It's just kind of a handful, but it's pretty good for snipers.
I could agree
could
with that
100%
overall.
agree.
That's
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
this is exactly why I'm glad that we were able to get you on for this path, especially again with the major rule changes that we've had this season. Obviously, COD has been a big part of your history, especially with the launch of COD Mobile. And again, you're really one of those detailed guys that does look at all the changes in the background. You know, I've seen some of the charts that you've been able to make. I think one day specifically, you were going over with Hitman some of the shotgun kill ranges when the shorty came out, and I mean, Path brings charts to the table. Like, if, if you get into an argument with Path, this dude has folders of information, right? That he's gonna bring to prove you wrong, and um, I think that's really solid for teams to have someone who's really on that analytical side of things. So that was definitely something big that NYSL had for them in the favor last year. Obviously, this year is a whole new year. We're going to see whole new teams come into the mix, and could be pretty interesting. But that's neither here nor there. Moving on to some of our other rule changes. So we are back to allowing all operators. There's no operator bans, but it is going to be one unique operator per team. And that list is Purifier, War Machine, Death Machine, Sparrow, Tempest, Gravity Spikes, Annihilator, Equalizer, and Gravity Vortex. And I think that has spiced the scene up quite a bit. I know me and Verdict have talked about it. It definitely is a little bit more exciting to see. We even had Shift on last week with Bobby, and he was absolutely on board for this rule set because looking all through the last set of champs rules, it was 9 times out of 10 the Annihilator and the Sparrow were banned, and then you had 10 people rocking the Death Machine. So I like this. I know Verdict likes it, Shift likes it, Bobby likes it. What do you think, Path?
Personally, I think having a lot of operator skills in play is nice, but some of these operator skills are not as competitive as the other ones. For example, a War Machine is not very good right now. Gravity Vortex is very interesting, but I think to make the best out of it, you have to make sure the enemy team doesn't have a bunch of trophies. Because for some reason, trophies will block the Vortex projectile and just make it completely useless. I don't know why, but
Is that
video game logic.
a with the current update? Because that has certainly not been a case that we've run into yet.
Wait, that's not a case?
That's
Maybe they've
that's
changed
not
it.
something we've particularly seen.
Maybe they've changed it.
Yeah,
but
I've never seen someone like shoot a grav vortex, at least not this season so far, and it just not go off. What about you, Verdict?
I think I have. And I'm trying to like jog my memory just to like run through the scenarios. I don't think I've seen that be as much of a case as so much of the players just putting it down out of desperation and actually just getting sucked right into the vortex himself. So I think we see more of that than we've seen any kind of trophies, being shutting it down.
I know it's happened in the past, but I haven't seen it this update. Gil says he's seen it, so that is definitely a thing. At least seemingly, Path again is one of those guys who would know, and Gil says that he has seen it in the competitive scene. So definitely something to consider. As much as we've seen it spike in use lately, maybe it's worth running an extra trophy system on the team. I don't know.
I think the problem with Vortex is that like you're gonna have someone running the Sparrow. That's pretty much clear as day. Someone is gonna be on Death Machine. Someone is going to be on Annihilator, and then you have a Vortex. How do you actually play the Vortex? Because Annihilator, you can come out and just chase kills. Sparrow, it's very easy to break kills, just spam it into the hard point. You have Death Machine holding down lanes. Vortex is a lot more risk and a lot less reward for what it's worth because you only get 2 shots.
Yeah.
As for the other ones, Equalizer is funny. I think Equalizer is kind of similar to a Death Machine, but it's got shorter range and more mobile. It could be useful, but I've seen people try it and they pull it out, kill 2 people, and get immediately traded. So it wasn't as exciting as someone pulling a Death Machine and getting a quad feed, or someone just getting a 6-on with Annihilator. As for the Gravity Spikes is, I think, pretty good for specific maps. This one is really up to how big the rooms are for you to jump down on enemies.
Yeah, I assume you are kind of directing that towards
So
some of that instant activation, gravity spikes action. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the operator skills in play right now, I think you have a good mix, but some of them don't make a lot of sense, and some of them don't have much value, like the War Machine and like the Vortex. Vortex can be really good.
Yeah, I think
if you put it in a choke point,
hit on that at some point here.
I think Day and I have seen. I don't think we've seen a lot of Grav Vortex or a lot of right usage from the Grav Vortex, but one of the things that
we're seeing more of it though.
We're seeing more of it, and I think they're getting the right picture. I think the vortex adds a little bit more value in potentially holding enemies out of a potential, object. Say you're, in P4 on a standoff map and you've got boxes covered. They're coming in from barn site. You put that on, either the staircase or that front door or the back door, whatever direction you're facing. And it's more of like a denial tool than anything. I don't think, I love the grav vortex when it picks 3 or 4 up, just randomly, but I think that it's more of a shutdown tool than, more than
Yeah,
anything.
I
And
can
that's
see
what
that.
I've seen a lot more patience out of grav vortex users recently too. They'll pull it out, wait for, someone to sound off on the outside of an objective, put it there, buy them a little bit of time. Overall, it's not going to be as OP, but in, the current rule set, I think it adds a lot of value to the team.
I think
Yeah,
we've seen a fair amount of play and domination with it as well. If you drop it like on a B flag when you're the only one there for
True.
defense, it can buy your team a little bit more time. So I think that probably boils down to who uses it and how they're using it. But you're absolutely right, Path. Only having 2 shots and the limited flexibility that you have if you waste those shots, or if they get eaten by a trophy system, can definitely make it a little bit weaker on the competitive side. I absolutely agree with that.
and the last one we have is the Tempest. The Tempest used to be very, very good, but then they changed the ADS zoom, and now it's kind of like a weird annihilator. I think it's still good for taking down streaks, but are streaks like Goliath still in the play right now,
So
or are they
They
actually
are
out?
that
not.
is
Yeah.
the next section. So since we're on the Tempest anyway, and that's the last one, I'll go ahead and talk about the banned score streaks, and then I think the Tempest probably goes on your list of just not competitively viable operators. So we're looking at the banned score streaks are going to be UAV, Care Package, Shock RC, Counter UAV, Dragonfire, Sam Turret, Hawk X3, Goliath, I think is probably the biggest one in that sense.
Yeah,
Sentry Gun, Stealth Chopper, Swarm, Napalm, Advanced UAV, EMP, and VTOL. So obviously the Goliath has been the biggest thing for a Tempest user to target. Um, Without that in the mix, I don't really see why you would ever pick a Tempest over any of the other available operators. I haven't seen enough of the Purifier buff to know really how strong that is, Path. Maybe you have a little bit more insight on how strong it is overall as an operator.
yeah. So first of all, Tempest has a very unique value, which is that if you shoot someone with it and you kill him, uh, his body is gonna generate like a field around him. If enemies go into that field, they will also take a lot of damage and be stunned. The stun is like 5 seconds, so it kind of works like a vortex in that if you kill someone with it, his body becomes the vortex. You cannot come close to him, or you get shocked and you take a lot of damage. It can be used for area denial, but I think because Tempest works more like a long range option, it's just much easier to run an Annihilator or Death Machine and just hold down a lane. So I think Tempest is in a weird spot. As for the Purifier, the buff is kind of funny in that they increase the ammo count, which doesn't matter a lot. They increase the rate of fire by 100%. So it used to shoot at 300 RPM, now it's 600, and the damage is the initial blast damage is slightly increased, but the burn damage is slightly decreased, which results in an overall faster time to kill. But barely, because you cannot just touch someone with the flames and they die. You still need to get at least 2 torches onto the enemy, but you will get 2 torches on that enemy faster than before. So I think you could use it in hardpoint, like just hold down one entrance to a hardpoint with a purifier and nobody comes in, because it shoots so fast you can just burn them and they immediately die. And there's like no counter to the purifier. You can't really survive it by having more health. Wait, is TAC 5? Wait.
That is banned.
Yeah,
TAC
banned.
5
Okay.
and the kinetic armor are both banned.
Okay,
Oh.
so for the purifier, you can use it to hold down one choke point, just a close range entrance really easily. But I think for a lot of players, Death Machine just kind of does that job, because you can hold down a longer lane. and it still kills very fast. The equalizer should also do a similar trick, but I think equalizer is kind of finicky just because it's not the most accurate.
I mean, where would you put? I think was it Envy or Perish Verdict that we saw running the Purifier on
Envy.
Thursday? Envy, and he was pretty much one of the only ones, right?
Oh, he's been running it for about a week and a half now.
Right,
So
but
like ever
he's
since the
been
rule
one of
set,
the
yeah.
only notable ones, right?
He's been the only one consistently using it that I've noticed. So
Do you think that of our allowed operators, do you think the Purifier is a top 5 pick path?
I think it's map specific. Let's say you're playing standoff, then for P3 you can just hold down the staircase with the Purifier and nobody comes through. Like if it's a really close quarter scenario, then Purifier absolutely shreds everybody. But if it's not a super close range scenario, if the hill is a little bit bigger, easier to contest, then not so much. But I've yet to see how it would perform. Let's say maybe what's the map? Firing range maybe. The firing range P2 and P3 is kind of long. So if you have a purifier, it may not be super useful. But on maps like Hackney Yard or Standoff where the hills are very close, like the hills are very small, it's very easy to get to enemies, I think purifier could be a lot more useful.
interesting analysis.
I think that's pretty fair though. I think that's pretty fair and overall pretty accurate. And I feel like there's several operators that are going to be in that same kind of scenario, right? That are going to be map specific and maybe to a degree player specific as well.
Yeah, I could see that. Let's say gravity spikes, that's very player specific. The vortex is very player specific because it's more like utility. Tempest, someone may use it, but I don't really know. Equalizer, maybe. Like these are not the best picks, but they are niche picks.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely agree with you on that. Um, this is our first season with a very diverse weapon restriction list, and my understanding is, at least according to the players, they wanted the gun selection to be a little bit more along the lines of what CDL brings to the table. So our bans are, of course, including the NA45. The SVD is completely banned. And then we have all shotguns, including the shorty, all LMGs, all marksman rifles, and all launchers, including the D13 and the Thumper, are banned from competition. So that mostly is just going to leave you with with ARs and SMGs, as well as then your pistol selection as a secondary. How do you feel about that rule change specifically, Path?
I don't. They're going towards a CDL rule set, right? But banning marksman rifle, I think it's more like 50-50. Like SKS, I think SKS is very strong in a competitive setting, but I don't think SKS is that deserving of a ban if we are not touching like the top 4 auto guns. That's my personal opinion. I think SKS could be allowed. You can restrict some attachments on it, but SKS doesn't seem that troublesome. If we are to ban a good like long range suppressive weapon, then we also need to restrict some of the full auto options, like the Type 25, for example. I don't know why people don't ban it. Instead, they ban the marksman rifles. Or shotguns is understandable. Rocket
Nobody likes
launchers,
dying to shotguns.
yeah, I know. Shotguns very understandable. Rocket launchers make sense. I know some Thumper can be a real pain sometimes. Shorty band understandable. However, I think people missed something. I don't think a lot of people realize this, but you can run gas crossbow in this rule set.
I don't think we can.
Well,
So the gas and the thermite bolts on the crossbow are banned within the gas and thermite grenades
Okay.
being banned. Yeah.
All right. So these are
We
banned,
have seen crossbow use though. We have seen people
but you
get
can
kills with the crossbow.
but you can still run the Semtex crossbow, and it's basically you can get 2 nades out in a very quick amount of time. And the thing about crossbow is, I don't know why, but crossbow, if you have a specialized bolt on a crossbow, it will do something weird for the trophy system. The trophy will detect the bolt and detonate it, but the special part about that bolt will still be active. So let's say you have a gas crossbow. I know it's banned, but if you shoot a gas crossbow and it gets trophied, somehow the gas will still be detonated.
Interesting.
I haven't tested if that works the same for the Semtex yet, but
That's actually
if it works like that, I think Hardpoint would be very chaotic if you could spam Semtex crossbow into that.
I think that's very interesting because in other COD titles specifically, looking at the likes of your console, Modern Warfare, and Cold War, I believe all of those bolts are completely undetected by trophy systems. So that's unique, and I think for COD Mobile does bring like maybe a little bit of an extra tool that you can use because obviously, like, let's say you're on raid, okay, and you're pushing towards B, and you're one of the two players on your team that are pushing towards B, and the enemy is trying to get a recap.
Yeah,
I feel like a couple quick crossbow shots could be great at taking out a trophy system while also still potentially getting the effect. I'll have to double check on the Semtex bolts, um, but that's
you know
that's
what
actually
else can
quite
you do?
unique. Hmm.
You can stay in you, you can stay in the laundry and shoot a Semtex bolt at the other side. I forgot what's the name of that.
On raid,
I forgot. Yeah, like
red room.
over B. Yeah, red room. Okay, you can stay in laundry, shoot a Semtex bolt into that room, and it will not be. It will still be effective even if you have a trophy and you have basically denied the enemy a power position. So I think crossbow could be used as an area denial tool. People could experiment with it. As for the pistols, I think the pistols being in play are fine. ARs, SMGs, I don't really like this AR SMG meta. I don't really like the Type 25 meta that much, just because there aren't really much options you could use beside the Type 25.
I think we've seen a little bit of M13 verdict out of
Well, a
Solo from
few.
NA and maybe a
Yeah.
couple here and there in Europe, but yeah, it has largely been Type 25.
Yeah, but the thing is, M13 is also broken.
Fair, fair.
Like, Type 25 is tier 0, M13 is tier 0, and then if you take these two out, nobody knows what to use. Same for the SMGs. CBR is tier 0. If you take it out, then people start to have decisive decision-making issues. They can't decide between MP5, Fennec, PPSH, or they might even run a Bison. I don't know why. So there are too many, like, in my understanding, if they're trying to run a CDL rule set, then they should have done the full CDL rule set, because the full CDL rule set will almost always ban the tier 0 guns. In Cold War, they banned the AK-47 and then banned the XM4.
I think
In
that was
Vanguard,
largely GA before they actually
yeah,
banned it, though.
they GA'd it, but
Yeah.
nobody could use it. Just because it's not like written officially, still people couldn't use it. I remember last year, CDL, every pro player was talking about the Krieg, and some people actually tried to GA it despite it being like the slowest killing assault rifle. So I don't know, like, if people are
The
actively
Krieg
going
is
for
a
a CDL,
different beast on land, though. Like
yeah,
if
the
you
Krieg is
watch the time to kill with the Krieg on land, someone can be on a head glitch and insta die. It's kind of nutty.
yeah, because Krieg, if you get 2 headshots, it's a 4-shot.
Mm.
And pros are, like, CDL players are generally very good with headshots. So Krieg was pretty nasty, but like, still, the AK was not allowed. The XM4 was not allowed. The QBZ I don't think was allowed either.
Mm-mm.
The FFAR was not allowed. I think Dashi tried using it, but
I think all of the DLC weapons were not allowed.
yeah.
Is-
So in our scenario, we have the tier 0 guns in play for some reason, and then we ban the tier 1 gun, the SKS. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like,
So I think my biggest problem with the SKS, and maybe you guys will agree with me on this, I saw a lot of people complain that the SKS is a 2-shot at any range. I don't think that was
Two-shot headshot. Or
listen,
yeah.
I don't think that was the issue. I think the range at which it one shot to the head was the issue, if you want me to be blatantly honest.
yeah,
Um
I think that's a problem. Like
yeah.
a consistent 2-shot gun with very controllable recoil and the ability to one tap someone in the head at infinite distance was kind of broken. I think if I'm to change the gun in any way, I would take that infinite one headshot ability. I would make the 2-shot more consistent, but I would remove the infinite one-shot headshot ability. But even then, the SKS, you don't get that many headshots. You could get some very nasty headshots on the headies, but I don't think it's overall as annoying as the Type 25. My opinion. Wait, am I
Yeah.
still in?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
again, I think that's the biggest thing with the SKS to me. I would have liked to see a little bit more limit on the headshot one shot range, and maybe have that damage multiplier fall off. I don't know what seems fair, like the 10, 15 meter mark at most for a marksman. Because there was honestly a lot of times where, and no discredit to how good Space was with that weapon, but there's a lot of times where I was able to see Space. Someone pushed him up close, and before he even fully got ADS'd, he pulled the trigger, and one of those hip fire shots just happened to hit
Just
someone in the head, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
it happens.
that's kind of rough. Okay, that's kind of rough. So I totally get the frustration on that
Yeah,
aspect, but
it do be like that sometimes.
yeah. I do think that's all of the initial rule set that we just went over. But there were, over the last couple days, an additional vote going on some other changes, which is what I sent you earlier. Obviously, okay, we'll get to the storm ball in a second.
Okay,
So
we
we
can look
we
at
added
quick fix.
a handful of banned perks. That's going to be quick fix, fast recover, wounding, disable, tracker, and alert.
Okay, my opinion, quick fix should have been banned like a year ago.
Thank you.
Yeah, quick fix should have been banned like a year ago. Fast recover. As much as it doesn't make a lot of sense, I don't think fast recover deserves to be banned. But that's only because the healing in this game is terrible. I'll give you an example. Let's say someone shoots you 4 times at Type 25, hits you all in the limbs, and you're on 4 health, okay? It
Don't you just
takes
love
you
Verdict how he knows the number? He's like, you'll be on 4 health.
I know, right? Yeah. I
Okay.
was trying to do the math in my head.
It takes you precisely 5 seconds to start healing. And every second you get 20 health back. So a total of 10 seconds.
To fully
If-
reheal.
If someone shoots you 4 times at a Type 25 at I'll say medium range, you're gonna need 10 seconds. You are fully out of combat for 10 seconds. That is a stupid amount of time. I don't think anybody has any time to wait that long to get back into the fight, especially in a match like Hardpoint. You just physically cannot afford to wait 10 seconds. Like, that's giving enemies 3 points. So fast recover, it helps. I think even with fast recover, it's not a super fast healing. You still need to wait about 3 seconds, and the full heal is about 4 seconds.
So okay,
If the base healing was better, I think if the base healing was really good, like Modern Warfare healing or Vanguard healing, I have no problem with banning fast recover. But because our base healing is completely terrible and utterly unbearable, I don't think fast recover should be banned.
So just for my understanding of the fast recover perk, um, it increases HP recovery rate by 30%. Is that or 35%? Is that
It's kind of
once
complicated.
is that
So
once the healing is initiated, or is that the cooldown before healing?
the description is not entirely representative. What it actually does is it makes the healing delay shorter from 5 seconds to 3.3 seconds.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good reduction. And then every tick you heal is 27 health instead of 20. So that's the
Oh, so
35%
it's like
increase.
on both. Okay. Okay.
Yes, it's like both. So in total, you would have gained about
3.5 seconds.
27% improved healing. So like if you're super low on health, you would need 7.3 seconds instead of 10 seconds, which I think 7.3 is waitable. 10 seconds is not. 10 seconds, you just can't wait.
Yeah, I would certainly agree that is a pretty long time to be out of the mix. So maybe that's a conversation to just have with COD Mobile in general. Um, Especially since it seems like they're so into having a faster paced game, right? So for our champs rule
Yeah.
set last year with incredibly short games that were just flying through, um, as well as the respawn changes for specifically hardpoint. It feels like they're really trying to make a lot of gunfights happen, and then the base health recovery of the game just doesn't seem to promote that. So hopefully we'll see a change in that. Um, you have anything you wanna add on either of those verdict? Quick fix,
Um,
fast recovery.
I think I think he was just hitting it on the head with the timing and everything. That's a long time to be out, and I think we noticed that a lot last night when we were casting that other tournament, and we noticed not as many engagements and not as quick to jump right on into another gunfight. And I think with quick fix out of the mix, and some people may completely disagree with this statement, but I think that's what we're here for. We're here to air out. I think that makes 5v5 just so chaotic, and it's going to continue to get chaotic, and it's just going to lead to players trying to play their life a little bit more. Whereas if we were in a 4v4 format without quick fix, your teamwork comes more into play versus you individually just trying to slay out and get as many kills as you can get. And I think that's
I certainly think we'll see less quad feeds.
no, I 100% can guarantee you. Well, I mean, with the exception of Jez, that guy's just built differently. I don't know what he's got going on, but dude is just a freak of nature.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. Our other four perks that we have banned, I think are interesting.
Wounding makes sense.
Yeah,
Wounding makes sense because the base healing is terrible. And if you add wounding to the mix,
Oh yeah,
basically
that's
nobody can walk out.
there you go.
Like you shoot someone 4 times with a Type 25 is not hard. And then they need to wait like 13 seconds before they can challenge you again. That makes the game so much slower and is not enjoyable at all. Like if I'm watching a competitive match, I want people to be going for gunfights. I don't want to see people trying to poke at each other at ridiculous distances and try to out heal each other. That is not competitive.
That's battle
Disable,
royale, right?
yeah, that's battle royale. Disable, uh, I don't like disable. I think they kind of like I understand disable when the MX9 was the best gun in the game, but disable at a current setting, I think it slows down the game unnaturally. If the disable value was tuned down to maybe 8%, or maybe 10%, 10% is still a lot, but maybe 8 to 10%, I think disable could be workable, but right now it's kind of too much. Tracker.
I think one of the big things with disable, and at least this is what I have heard, is that currently disable works on body shots as well for ARs and LMGs.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
I
think
think that
that's a huge
that is
factor.
weird. I don't really understand it because ARs and SMGs, you get a lot of body shots. If anything, I think you I think the full body shot effect would have been on slower fire rate weapons, like maybe I don't know. It's just maybe LMGs that could make sense, but LMGs are banned. So I think having ARs be able to full body slow down is kind of a pain. And that also explains why there are still so many Type 25s in use, because CBR cannot have the full body disable. Tracker, I don't have a lot of experience with this thing. I know it's an Intel perk, and CDL doesn't like Intel perks. But do people actually use it?
Yeah.
A
I
lot?
think
I mean,
scrubs
S&D.
absolutely use it.
S&D.
Yeah,
Yeah.
S&D.
S&D tracker is useful for a more aggressive player, but that's kind of it. And maybe like me personally, I think having tracker maybe limited to one player per team, we could evaluate how it plays out. But I don't really see a lot of people using tracker in general. Even for flanking, people don't really use tracker. The final one is alert. Alert is horrible. It used to be really good, and then they nerfed it. The range is like 10 meters now, and it has a delay to trigger. So if
I would
someone just
probably compare it now more to I don't know if you've played Vanguard at all, but they have a newer perk that they added called Intuition, which is kind of like High Alert, except for the range is chopped down quite a bit. It does have a delay before it pops up, and the Vanguard one also works through walls. But it changes the
uh,
reticle color. So obviously, Alert
alert
isn't
is
that strong here, but
alert is not really the high alert thing in Vanguard. Alert is more like the acoustic sensor from Black Ops 4, where you see enemies on a map. Not red dots, but you get a general direction of enemies close to you on a minimap, which can be very useful in competitive. I understand. Like if you're
it
in a
actually
hard
puts
point
them
and
on the mini map in COD Mobile too.
like no, if I'm in a hard point, right,
Correct.
and you come to the left of me, I don't need to see you because
Yeah,
on
your
my
screen
minimap,
pulses.
no, on my minimap specifically, not a screen. The minimap will show a direction of a red cone. That cone will show where my enemies are coming from, but
Interesting.
only if enemies are close to me. The thing is,
Within 10 meters.
yeah, within 10 meters, but 10 meters is a very short range. If let's say you're in a hard point and you're just painting onto your life, you're at 20 HP, you're waiting for that painful 8-second heal time, and you have no quick fix, and then you have an alert coming in, you kind of have the intel, you can prepare for that fight. But if you're camping in S&D, that's rough because 10 meters, you're gonna hear them regardless, even
True.
if they have dead silence. Dead silence makes you inaudible past 16 meters. You are still going to hear them. So
What
I
if they're
think
crab walking?
crouch walking makes sense,
Oh, yeah, crouch
right?
walking.
If they're crouch walking beside you, that makes sense. But I think having a counter dead silence perk in the same tier as dead silence is pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
If someone tries to crouch walk past you, you can't hear them, but alert still gives you that information. I think that can be useful because you're sacrificing your own dead silence for that. That could be cool, but in that case, I think we would have to limit how many players could use alert. If everybody had alert, everybody just camping rooms and wait for other team to crouch walk beside them. Maybe limit to like 2 players per team that can use alert. I think that we can check how it would play out, but full on ban a perk that's not super useful is just weird.
I could agree with you on that. I could definitely agree with you on that.
Again,
Um,
like this is a mobile game. Like we can try to make it as competitive as possible, but we still need to have that something that's relatable to our viewers. And I think viewers understanding how alert works, giving that information, helps bring a bit more value to the table.
yeah, definitely could be the case. I I was totally wrong on the way alert worked in COD Mobile, so I'm glad we actually had an opportunity to at least go over this because that does give me a little bit more insight on how it works here. Um, the most recent tactical added to the game is
Stormball.
Stormball. And now
This
I
is fun.
think, listen, I think this one spiked a lot of
This is fun.
this one honestly spiked if I have to be blatantly honest here, a lot of bullshit in the scene.
I know. I know.
That
I know.
that is the easiest way to put it because you have
This is the
one
one-way
half of the
smoke.
listen. You have one half of the community that is ginormous hypocrites, okay, and then you have a other half of the community that says, okay, you guys want to be hypocritical, well, we're gonna give it to you where the sun don't shine, right? And that is kind of what this whole argument is about because half of the community voted to keep Quick Fix in, which I'm right there with you. Quick Fix should have been out a year ago. We actually get a new tactical added in that marginally counters Quick Fix. If you're in the range of the Storm Ball, it can cancel your healing out, which is obviously useful, especially for search and destroy. Um, because it also functions as a form of not necessarily cover, but
It's a one-way
it,
smoke.
it can be, yeah, it is a large smoke. It's disorienting. It can be hard to navigate for both teams, in all honesty. Um, but the big thing was you couldn't take a follow-up gunfight and push through the storm ball with quick fix. I think was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So my favorite part of this whole secondary rule set is that it was if you allow quick fix, we're allowing the storm ball, and if you don't allow storm ball, we're not allowing quick fix. And sure enough, we now see both of them taken off of the mix. So I'm okay with that. I thought the storm ball was really interesting. Um, but if it takes quick fix out of the game, kudos CODM for adding something uh, that toxic enough against pro players that they actually
I think
banned quick fix for once.
Stormball versus Quick Fix is legitimate,
Mhm.
but Stormball, but Fast Recover should not have been there. Fast Recover was, I think Fast Recover played fine. As for the Stormball, I'll share a bit of my personal experience. So I was in a rank match this afternoon, and we got into Nuketown. Guess how long the P1 was clouded by Stormball?
45 seconds of it.
Probably
Yeah,
damn near the whole thing. If
yeah,
you want me to be honest
yeah.
here.
You cannot get inside.
I
You
do think
physically cannot get
that's
inside.
yeah, I think that's probably to a degree not the same thing, right? Because
Like,
we look at, for example, you jump into a solo queue game of ranked and you get stomped by uh, some 8-year-old at his grandma's house playing on his phone with persistence, right? Like is that the go-to loss here is the persistence users. Obviously, when we look at the competitive scene, we're talking a little bit more strategic, and
yeah,
things like flashes, things like regular smoke grenades, things like storm ball, as well as trophy systems are all very very needed things on the team. So it does limit the amount of storm ball you can run. Right? There's
right.
not
But
literally 10 people running storm ball.
I'll put one really specific scenario. Let's say it's domination, and you try to capture B point, right?
Mhm.
And for the entire duration of the game, B flag is covered in storm ball, and when you run into the storm ball, there are 3 semtexes thrown at you. How are you supposed to take that?
Listen, I kind of love it. Okay, I kind of love it. Again, I think that falls into there's kind of a limited availability to have that many storm balls. Now hear me out. I think storm ball being added as a tactical is probably the biggest mistake about storm ball.
Yeah,
I think if
if storm
storm ball
ball,
was an operator,
let's put it this way: what if storm ball was a really low cost operator, like let's say 500 score? That could be useful because you don't spawn in with one.
correct.
I think they should have went that
I could
approach.
even expand this
That would take
logic
it out
to
of the
some
search and destroy
other.
mix too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would also expand this logic to, let's say, the trophy system. what if the trophy system was an operator skill that charged really fast?
Really fast.
Oh yeah. Well, it was an
Let's say
operator in
in Modern Warfare, it was
Modern
an
Warfare
operator
2019, right?
and Cold War. Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to charge it. Let's say you take 300 score to get it. It's not difficult. Anybody could get it. But the point is, you don't spawn in with a trophy system. You can't infinitely supply a hardpoint with trophies, so they can never breach.
To be fair, I do think that does take a little bit away from the search and destroy. Whereas maybe having the storm ball not available for search and destroy, I think not having trophy systems for search and destroy is pretty painful.
But let's say, what if we allowed operator skills in search and destroy? What if you could take your time and charge up your trophy system before you enter the next round? That's how CDL worked.
Well,
the
I mean,
last few
It
years.
is, well, you would also have to throw score streaks in the mix too, then, because they also do the same thing with score streaks.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Wait,
it would
no,
have to
no. I don't think. Wait, Modern Warfare played with specialists, so nobody had streaks. And then Cold War had streaks, but you have to get very, very high streak in Search and Destroy, where kill streaks happen a
and
lot.
those streaks happen to carry over rounds. So if you stayed alive for
Yeah.
3 rounds in a row, whatever you accrued in COD Mobile, it's every round, everything resets.
I think
Right.
if they added a setting of allowing streaks to carry over rounds, that could be interesting. And maybe Stormball or Trophy or both of them become available as operator skills for low cost. That could be workable because that also takes away someone using a death machine or annihilator. So you have to make the sacrifice. Do I want to use something that's easy to get and will often help my team, or do I want a really big gun?
That would add a little bit more value to. I don't know. I don't know if I could take this take and have a creative touch on it. I, am so used to seeing the trophy as a tactical option that, you would see way more nade kills, just freak nade kills to start rounds off.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would make defusing bombs practically impossible. It would add a lot of value to the trophy system, but you would just see an absolute abundance of tech or lethal kills in comparison to anything else.
That's understandable. So, like, if we are to go that route, there needs to be a balance. But I think that's something that's worth
I
experimenting.
think it's an interesting take. I certainly do. I certainly think the score streak take is also an interesting one too. So
I just saw Raider ask, can an EMP grenade take out a storm ball? I've tried throwing EMPs at storm balls and they never worked. All I got was sadness.
That's kind of like throwing an EMP at a Goliath and then it doing 1 damage, though, right? Like that. That
Yeah.
is the biggest feels bad, man, of that whole interaction. I still remember when you told me that. You're like, it does 16 damage. I was like, it does what? You were like, yeah, it does 16 damage, 15 if you impact, and 1 when it explodes. I was like, what on earth? That is absolutely nuts. Yeah, that is a real thing. I have tested it, Verdict. That is, an EMP does not disable a Goliath, and it does not do essentially 0 damage to a Goliath, which I think is
Yeah.
But
insanity.
EMP does destroy a trophy system through walls.
Through walls.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's an electromagnetic pulse. The through walls part is
Yeah.
the least confusing of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be useful in some scenarios, but I don't really see a lot of teams using it right now.
Is EMP not banned already?
EMP,
I don't think it's banned.
EMP grenades are allowed, but EMP systems, I believe, are
Oh, you're talking about the score streak.
yes.
No, I'm
EMP,
talking
gotcha.
about I'm talking about a grenade. The grenade can take out a trophy through walls.
Yes. Are we caught up, Verdict?
I'm still trying to figure out if AMPs are banned or not.
EMP grenades are not banned, and they can take out trophy system behind walls.
Okay, yeah, we're good.
Okay. If
Thank
you
you for
throw
slowing
it,
it down
if
for
you
me.
throw it at the trophy does win, though, right?
Yeah, you
Okay.
need to throw it in a spot that the trophy does not have a direct line of sight on, which happens a lot, surprisingly. But yeah. Next are the new ones, Unregular Room.
Score streaks. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I'm
Hunter
looking
Killer.
at it. I don't know how Shilter that made it through the first initial list. That thing's been out of the mix for a while, hasn't it?
I think that was
Uh,
something that was in discussion the first go around and then just officially got tanked out. I mean, it's not that we saw anybody use it anyway, but
Well, I mean, I remember a time when Shilter was like absolutely OP. It literally shut people out of getting into doors. So it
Shield
wasn't
turret.
even the fact that people used it; it was just
I'll put it this way.
annoyed.
I'll put it this way. The shield turret is an SKS that doesn't move
Okay.
with no
Oh
recoil,
wow.
by the way.
Wow.
The shield
Interesting.
turret is a 2-shot kill at 300 RPM, up to like 30 meters or something. You can't get one tap headshot, but you can 2-shot the whole body with a red dot. SKS cannot have a red dot. The only difference is you can't move. The shield turret is absolutely dangerous if you have a choke point with it. You don't shoot very fast, but you will melt anybody coming close, as long as you can hit them. But I think in a competitive setting, shield turret is kind of not very good. Let's say on standoff P3, someone just puts down a shield turret and looks at a staircase the entire time, 60 seconds. You cannot even get through because you don't have shields that can deny the shield turret. You would have to waste an EMP on it.
Fair.
But then they
fair.
will have trophies. So you can't really directly EMP into that hill. You have to EMP the bottom floor. And that delays you because if you rushing at the same time, you will also be EMP'd. And you don't have a UI. It's kind of disorientating. I think shield turret ban makes sense. 100 killer drone, I don't know. Is 100 killer drone really competitive?
It's used a lot. It's
It's used a
actually
lot,
There's no skill.
but is it competitive?
Requires, well, define competitive, I guess.
Because like I know some competitive games have a certain ounce of randomness into it. 100 killer drone is basically random.
It's random, 100% random.
Yeah. So do we like that randomness or do we not?
It doesn't require any skill, and that's the thing that I mean, it requires skill to get, but it's literally just tossing something in the air to hunt down for yourself.
Yeah.
It's basically like a version of the shock RC that could actually kill. It's in the air,
Yeah.
so it's AI oriented. It's not competitive,
but
in my opinion.
let's say you're in a really clutch like hardpoint breaking scenario, and somehow the 100 killer drone you've thrown out that's been flying for the past 15 seconds finally finds someone and gets you a clean sweep, and you finally break into the hill. That's pretty fun as a viewer, but I don't know.
No, I'm 100% on board with you. I don't believe it belongs in the game. Well, in a competitive scene that
Yeah.
yeah.
Chopper gunner. It's not released, but I think the ban is worth it.
Oh, I agree. We
especially if you have launchers banned, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
anything aerial that can be shot down with a launcher, I think makes a lot of sense to be taken out. So I don't really think we have to talk too much on the shield gunner. That one's pretty self-explanatory. This is one of the big reasons I wanted to specifically get you in is the two new weapons brought into the mix. One of them is obviously the PPSH, which I I think more players should use, especially since we're looking at an AR SMG only rule set. But I'm really glad that at least people banned the 100 round kilo mag. That literally, for all the stat adjustments they gave the gun, that literally made it a holger. Yeah, exactly.
That's a holger replacement.
Yeah.
The downside is it's nowhere near as good as the holger.
Yeah, not as good as and versatile as the holger was, but
it's much worse than a holger.
Yeah.
Because holger is an LMG, right? Let's say 10% ADS time on a really slow ADS gun versus 10% ADS time on a fast ADS gun. Like, it's still 10%, but the actual value is very different.
Right.
We've done the math, and if you put a 100 round mag on a kilo, the fastest you can get is about like 5 frames faster than the base holger with no attachments.
Right.
So you're never going to be able to make a kilo LMG as fast as a Holger, but you still have 100 rounds. That's
Right,
not very competitive.
which I think would replace the SKS, and instead of having someone holding a strategic position with the SKS to hold enemies
Yeah,
back,
just use
and
the
now they've
kilo.
got a 100-round Holger to just sit there and
Yeah,
wall
and
bang,
then they're sitting at
or
they're sitting
kilo,
in
sorry.
deli. Yeah,
The
yeah,
kilo beams though. I've tried a kilo. I've taken out someone on a heady at like 80 meters in Alcatraz. The kilo really beams.
nice.
Very,
But
very
the
nice.
thing about kilo is nowhere near as good as the Type 25, and it's worse than M13 in almost every category. So even if
Except
let's
for
say
ammo.
the mag is banned, right? Let's say you just run a kilo as a normal gun. You can still run a kilo as a Krig sort of. It's not a fastest DDK gun, but you can beam. It's still not going to be as viable as the top ARs right now. So unless we take out the Type 25 and the M13, I don't think we will see any other AR being used, except maybe the ASL and maybe the AMAX with the DMR rounds.
And you're saying if the Type 25 and the M13 were out of the mix, right?
Yeah, if we have Type 25 and the M13 out, we could be seeing stuff like the DMR AMAX, the 2-shot. We could be seeing a proper main AR like the Kilo, and just more options, because having only 1 to 2 guns by all 10 players is kind of boring.
Yeah, I would agree. That's one of the things that I've always found a little bit disappointing, like watching through CDL play over the years, is there very quickly becomes a meta, and it is
Yeah,
usually 2-2. You've got, they're 4v4. It is
yeah.
usually 2v2 or 2
There
ARs
are
and 2
2
SMGs.
ARs, 2 SMGs. Some
Sometimes
maps,
for certain maps, you might run a third
yeah,
AR for range,
or like a
or a
third
third
SMG.
SMG. Yeah, exactly, depending on what
Yeah,
the overall range of the map is going to be. But if you pop open the CDL from this past weekend, the kickoff,
it's just automatons and
automaton, yeah,
MP40s.
yep. So I would
Well, I mean,
like to
it's
see a little bit more balance where there's more viable guns in the meta overall. And I think COD Mobile is actually in a really decent spot for that if you take those top two out of the mix. Um,
Right. I
so
think we
for
can look
example,
at
the
like the really,
AMAX,
yeah,
the
AMAX,
AMAX and the AS Val are
yes,
two
these
very
these
good
can work.
SMG or ARs that are they're outclassed by the M13 and the Type 25, right? But if
Yeah,
you take
exactly.
the M13 and the Type 25 out, the AMAX and the AS Val play
You can run
very
the AS
different from each
Val, you can
other.
run the AMAX, you can run the Kilo. You have 3 airs now.
Hmm.
You could even run a Man-O-War if you want to. Like, if you just want to stay back and 3-shot people at 30 meters, you can run a Man-O-War. You have 4 airs technically. You could even run a DRH. DRH just got a buff. It's not terrible. Like, you have 3 to 4 good ARs, and if you take the CBR out, you have MP5, the QQ9, you have the Fennec, you have the PPSH, you could even run a Bison. You
I
have
love the
8
Bison.
guns. You have
The
8
the
guns at a
the
competitive
Bison
setting.
is one that I'm surprised we haven't seen more in the meta. Now, it
Yeah,
makes sense
because
because the Type 25 and the M13 are just so uh,
yeah,
usable. It doesn't take uh, realistically any high level of skill for someone to pick one of those guns up and do decent with it compared to some of the other guns in the game. So you put it in the hands of the pros and it's just an absolute laser beam. And with the Type 25 and M13 being effective at so many ranges, that does outshine the Bison a little bit in that sense. Um, but I think the Bison got a fairly substantial buff with the
yeah,
plus
the
2
buff was
base
pretty good.
damage, and the 15% body shot damage multiplier is actually crazy good, but
Yeah,
still just gets
because
outshined by how strong the the type
yeah,
is, you know?
yeah, like if we just take the top, if we take the tier 0 guns out, we could be having 8 guns in the competitive. And there's not like a super definitive saying on, okay, this one AR and this one SMG are the best. You can't really tell. There's one thing for every scenario. I remember in Black Ops 3, Black Ops 3 was a really good game for competitive. And in that game, for ARs, we had the HVK, we had a Man-O-War, the Shiva, the M8A7, the XR2. I think the only AR that wasn't used was the ICR. And for SMGs, you had the VMP, the Kuda, the Vesper I think was banned, and the Pharaoh.
Mhm.
Like so many options.
And they were all good.
I would like that kind of diversity in a competitive setting. Like that is fun. That accurately represents how an average player would deal with, because in a public game, in the hands of an average player, you don't see everybody running the same guns over and over.
Well, unless if the Type 25 exists. But
Yeah, like if I'm watching the competitive scene as a normal player and I see everybody using the same gun, it's just boring. I want to see pros use guns that I like to use. I want to see pro use guns that are interesting to their environments. Like having the same thing over and over is just boring.
so I think while we're on like specifically what we're talking about right now, this is probably a great time to jump into the next rule change, which is the banned skins. That I think a lot of people
Don't like.
listen. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think is falls right back into that group of you have half the community that's being very hypocritical about stuff, and they're picking and choosing. Like they sit there and they say, you know, we want to be more like the CDL until one of those CDL rules interferes with what they want. Um, and look, that's totally fine. I get it, and I like a lot of the skins in the game. You know, I like seeing, um, for example, the what is it, mechanical engine,
Yeah,
Type 25.
and
Yep.
yeah, and what's the other one, the horseman's pick.
yeah, the horseman's pick.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think those skins are fantastic, but
yeah, they are really cool skins. I think from a competitive setting, it's just some people can afford to buy the skin and some people cannot.
mhm. Well,
And
so
I've talked to players that ask me, will the Type 25 get nerfed? Because right now it's a 10-man Type 25 warfare, and if I don't buy the skin, I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because I haven't earned the red dot. That's actually how they think. And I think that's legitimate because people want to be competitive. But if I have the skin, then I don't need to run the red dot. That is an understandable concern, right?
Very.
or even past that, you look at guns like the M13 that
Yeah,
the
the
legendary
Morningstar.
has a red dot built in.
Yeah, it has a built-in red dot.
Yeah.
Right. So these skins, obviously, they give it an advantage, right? But then again, we look at let's look at from the organizer's perspective. Do you really think Activision is going to allow this?
No, definitely not.
Well,
No,
well,
no way.
hold on. We sit
No,
there and say that,
it's
but
their
look
bread
at
and butter.
well, I get that, but we look at that and say, you know, do we really think Activision is not going to allow those skins to be shown because that's their kind of moneymaker?
Yeah,
But the reality is, if we look at CDL, all blueprints are banned. All
yeah.
All of
blueprints,
CDL,
them.
all
not
blueprints are banned.
You,
not
you got to
just
think
ones
too.
that alter the iron sights. All blueprints are banned. Period.
Because
And
they
they
No.
have
also
to use
don't have
camos.
videos on the legendary and mythic weapons that they launch, on a regular basis.
Yeah,
So a lot of the marketing that goes into these weapons, I think you're looking at it from a different perspective. I don't think you can look at it from the eyes of the CDL versus COD Mobile.
Well,
There are
that
so
is why I'm
much,
saying though,
yeah.
it's weird that people are that will like openly say, well, we want to be more like the CDL, and then as soon as something the CDL does that they don't like comes out, like
okay.
just say you
Let me
want
answer one
this is the
question.
rule set you want,
Um,
and you want to be a little different than the CDL while still being very competitive on that front. So,
okay,
um,
I'm gonna answer Mistaken's question. Mistaken
go for it.
asked, doesn't COD Mobile play on the esports version so everyone has access to the skins? No, not really, because the esports version is a separate client, and
Yeah, only
when people
during
scrim,
official
when people
events.
scrim, like the esports client is only used for masters and champs. That's it. Mobile Mayhem is not played on the esports client. Scrims are not played on the esports client. When you get used to a certain skin that you don't have, like people don't want too much separation between their normal game and their official game. If you know what I'm saying.
Right.
I think, based on my perspective, I think I understand like both sides, the arguments. I think some skins we can like do specific stuff, but I think having skins are cool. I don't think all skins should like ultra iron sights should be banned. That's my take.
I'm trying to actually pull up a comparative uh, tweet right now that was put out by FaZe Simp actually. And this is one of the things I'm talking about in the mix here, right? So we had the official CDL pack come out, and you guys will probably be able to see it on the stream now. I did take our cameras down for a brief second. So we had the CDL pack come in, and it has operator skins. It has as well a bar blueprint that does not alter the gun whatsoever. And I know me and Verdict have looked at some of the Vanguard blueprints that have come out, and have not been a fan of some of the attachments are actually pay to win. Where what I mean by that is certain guns are getting attachments that just don't actually come on that gun unless if you buy the skin. This bar is not an example of that. This bar comes with attachments that are on the weapon. It doesn't alter the iron sights or anything of the nature, but this just reinforces the whole blueprints as a whole in the game for the CDL are banned. Just you can use your team's skin when those are released. They'll have the camos, but I don't know. That's why I think it's weird that people are voting on rules because they want to be more like the CDL, but something like that
I think
it draws so
one
much
thing you
uproar.
didn't mention. I think one thing you didn't mention is that I think the bar is actually banned in the CDL. So like you cannot use it. Period.
I think the bar is available, but the thing is they banned any magazine modifiers or ammo modifiers.
That's
So yeah, the
It's
bar was
STG as well. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So the bar was originally looking to get banned because it does have 50 caliber or 50 BMG rounds, which
and get
do
two-shot.
effectively turn it into a two-shot at all ranges within Vanguard.
Pretty stupid, yes.
Yeah.
well, I mean, granted, the rate of fire of that gun is much slower than every other gun in the game.
Yeah,
Two
but
shot from that is pretty,
Well,
yeah,
when
but
you look
like,
at when
in
you
a
look
hands-on
at
pro player.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
You
Yeah,
get two-shot. Like
I mean,
we are already looking to ban the SKS, and the SKS shoot it really slow, and it's semi-automatic, and people still want to ban it.
the
And here
SKS
you have
surprisingly shoots slower than the bar.
and here you have a fully automatic two-shot kill weapon with low recoil.
Yeah, it does if you build the attachments on it right in open Vanguard. It has
Vanguard, anything is
no
possible.
recoil. Yeah, yeah.
Anything
I mean,
is
that's kind of
possible.
the thing with having 10 attachments, right? And I think that's one of the actual things that the CDL did right by limiting the attachments that you can run in the mix. You do get rid of some of the stuff that is just incredibly broken. Because if you start looking at the magazine attachment differences, all of a sudden the meta is no longer automaton in Vanguard. It goes to the STG with the Russian 30 short mags,
Yeah.
which I think turn it to a 3-shot at like anything up to like
Actually,
60 meters or something like that.
I think the fastest TTK gun in Vanguard, assault rifle wise, is the AS-44, but the pros haven't really used it.
So it doesn't offer you the same viability at range. The only way you get that
AS-44
gun to
has
use at
less
range is with the burst fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just grinded that gun gold, let me tell you, but it is
AS-44
not as
very
good as the
stupidly fast.
STG at a range, but in the close range, I would probably most compare it to an AS
Type
Val.
100.
Uh,
Yeah, Type 100 AS Val,
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, it's a very
close range gun.
submachine gun-esque AR. And that is actually, I think, the meta build on it is a hipfire gung-ho build. Is that right, Verdict?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Wait, we're talking about the PPSH, right?
Well, we were talking about the
No.
AS-44.
AS-44. It doesn't have gung-ho, but it's supposed
It
to
does
give
have
you that
gung-ho.
same feeling. It does?
It does, yeah.
Oh, man. They don't need to add that to ARs. I'm sorry, dude. That doesn't need to be an option. You don't need to be running around freakishly with ARs
I believe it
and
is.
able to...
I believe it is the only AR with gung-ho, actually.
Well, I'm sorry, I was too busy banning and unbanning Maddock, and I was listening. I also think I might have broke Twitter with my post earlier. I didn't post any context, and I feel terrible right now because there are a lot of people waking up and reading this rule set and not very happy.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't put
it's.
Mobile Mayhem in the mix to it.
I mean,
So
listen, it is big changes. It is absolutely big changes in the scene. So that's kind of why we wanted to take this time today. I know we talked about rules last week, but the rules have changed this week. You know, so
Yeah.
that is
well,
that
they
is
didn't
a
change. They adapted.
they
You know,
updated. They updated.
they
Yeah.
updated. They adapted. You know, things get added in. Stormball being a prime example of it, and I think people starting to come to a realization that something has to move forward, and this is the thing that has to and Pat said it earlier perfect too, is we're taking baby steps, and it's situations like that push us to want to remove some of the things that probably should have been there to begin with. That realization is I don't know. I'm finally starting to see a little bit of change in the community, but again, in Twitter, it does not reflect that change. So,
Yeah.
you Twitter warriors, stay strong out there. All right.
Yeah, and since we are looking at the last actual rule, and we're gonna uh, kind of just really burn through the next couple points. I know it's been a little bit longer of an episode since we had um, just
Yeah,
so many rules to go over.
we don't get Pat to come on a
Listen,
regular
I told
basis,
Path
so we
45
have
minutes
to
to an
take.
hour, and we're at an hour and a half. Well, mine is 10 minutes because there was a
Enjoy it.
12-minute
No, no,
intro.
I have all time. I have all the time. It's okay.
Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that, bro.
Well, I
Don't.
have people asking in the chat too if they ban or saying if they ban snipers, I'm never watching. So for respawns, the last rule that was amended is that there's a maximum of one sniper in respawns. We'll still see metas of two snipers probably in specific search and destroy maps and for teams that have a strong duo sniper lineup.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only change for the snipers is that you have a max of one in respawn.
Okay. The problem is you banned all the good respawn snipers, so everybody just sticks to
Yeah,
the
the
LK.
SVD and the SKS.
No,
Yeah.
SVD is broken. We know that. SKS is not really a sniper. I always say SKS plays more like an AR than a sniper.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, SKS is more like a long range AR. But when you take the SKS out and you take all the marksman rifles out with it, you don't have a lot of sniper rifle options. You could run a DLQ and try to get long range picks, but DL, unless you're able to consistently land like long range good picks off people, off headies, it just doesn't bring as much as an actual AR in this meta because you can be flinched.
Well, I think we've seen a at least reasonably large respike in the
Arctic?
presence of the Arctic 50.
Yeah, Arctic
Um,
can work.
yeah.
Arctic can work. I think respawn sniping in general is very niche. It depends on what team is trying to do it. And it goes either really, really good and nobody can touch that respawn sniper, or that person does horrendous. There's not in between in this situation, I think.
Listen, there's plenty of times in the past that we have seen respawn snipers where we're like, okay, you've had a couple lives on your sniper and you're just not doing great. It's time to put it down. And sometimes they just won't put it down, and everybody's sitting there like, bro, you are 7 in 24. It's time to time to switch it up.
It's
And
been telling that we need to change things up on Vanguard when he's sniping, right?
yeah, we need to change things up and not let me use the crossbow all the time in Warzone.
Yes, there we go.
Karma is asking, is toughness banned? Toughness, I don't think is banned.
No, it's
But because every single meta sniper build is you stacking a bunch of ADS speed, toughness doesn't offset it. You're still gonna be flinching. Like you can build a DLQ with combat stock, a light barrel, and attack laser. You can build it to be fast, but then you put toughness on, expecting it to fix everything. But no, it just fills the empty void in your heart a little bit because you're still gonna get flinched, and you're still gonna miss shots.
that's tough.
It's tough. It really be like that.
It's toughness.
Yeah.
Or is it not? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I listen. I think players are getting exactly what they asked for, um,
But
and
did they really ask for it?
kind of
Did
doubling
they really
back.
want it?
They voted on all these changes. Both of the
They
rule sets
voted,
were voted
yeah.
on by players. So,
except
um,
for the actual gun skins, which I don't even think that should even been a
l-
vote. That's
l-
something that
yeah, that okay. So that one again, is the only rule change that was not voted on
I
by
think
the players. Everything else was completely voted on, and the reason the gun skin ban happened is one, it's like CDL, which players said they wanted to be more like, and two, it created a very pay to win, granted marginally,
I
but a
mean,
pay to win kind of scenario for a
I
lot of the
think
meta weapons.
I think one compromise you could make with the skins is you could ban the legendaries and mythics. You keep the epics because most epic skins don't have much better iron sights than the base one.
So that is kind of the ban. It's all mythics are banned, and then any that alter the iron sights. So that will leave a
Yeah,
lot of the epics still in the mix.
I think some epics don't change iron sights by a lot. That it would be considered pay to win.
I think one of the
Some of them
biggest
maybe, but
I think one of the
depends.
biggest ones is the Type 25 right now,
Type
and
25,
the
yeah,
Holger
the
when
first
the
one big,
Holger meta was going on for 6 months. So
right?
um, yeah, so I think that's it on the rule changes. And again, I think there's a lot of people that need to understand, it's okay to want to be like the CDL, but if you want to be the CDL, be the CDL. And if you want to be your own independent thing with competitive rule changes, then say that. We think these are the competitive rule changes. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen on the rule changes as of late.
Yeah.
Um, so I know Verdict is sitting there farming the impressions off my fire tweet.
there you go. I think I figured out Twitter. You just don't put context, and it just gotta hit the it just gotta hit rolling, and it's still full
Listen,
steam
bro,
ahead.
you're
So
almost at as many engagements as you have followers on that one
I'm way,
tweet.
I'm way past that, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
Impressions. I'm talking about engagements.
Okay, yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So great work out of Verdict over there. He's learning the tweeter,
Yes.
guys. He's
Minor
learning the Twitter.
victory for Verdict. Minor
Not
victory
That's
for
a big
Verdict.
victory. That's a big victory.
Okay, that's
That's
a big
that's
W.
gonna bump your January analytics up to probably
Oh,
record high, man.
way past record high.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely killing it there. So I think our next thing up is probably going to be pretty short because we did discuss a little bit of it during the rule changes. Is the meta path? And I think my biggest question, since again we went over things like the kilo in general and how the M13 and the type are kind of at the top. Where do you think the PPSH falls into the mix here? Because we see Jez using it and absolutely fry, and then nobody else is touching it.
The Papa Shah is
The
it's called a Papa Shah. I think it's called Papa Shah, right?
we
The
call it the
PPSH,
yeah. Either way,
the PPSH, I think is a lot more like an MP5 or the Fennec and less like the CBR, just because the recoil is kind of rough. Now, I know the recoil can be controlled, but
Oh,
it's
it is
not.
absolutely a close range weapon. You're not killing someone
Yeah, it's a
across
close range
the
weapon. Like,
across the street on crossfire
you can
with the
you can try
PPSH.
to make it like you can try to learn the recoil and be accurate with it, but at the end of the day, it's much more like a Fennec or an MP5. But the PPSH has one drawback, which is that the sprint to fire is really slow, like the Fennec. But the Fennec doesn't have a sprint to ADS penalty, but the PPSH does. So in that sense, the PPSH is slower than both of them. Range is similar to the MP5. Like a while back, everybody was hyping up how the PPSH could 6-shot to infinite range, and everybody tried to build it like the ultimate long range SMG, and all of them failed miserably just because nobody could hit shots.
Let me tell you, if you
I
want a
think
long range PPSH, you drop into Warzone. You go full hip fire build, and 100 meters away, hip fire
look,
somebody.
dude,
Absolutely no problem.
It's nasty, bro. I got a full team squad wipe with a PPSH hipfire build, and that thing, the incendiary round's probably just so toxic. But
And this is why
I
they're
wish,
banned in the
yeah,
CDL.
this is exactly why they're banned in CDL.
Yeah,
No
the
skill
day
required either. It's just
the day
it's
I
they
think
pushing
add
buttons.
the PPSH is viable. I think I would put a PPSH somewhere at tier 1 to tier 1.5. So it's like one of the
really
best
that
optimal
low.
picks. It's not low because tier
I think
0.
that's low because I would have dropped that thing right in tier 0 the way Jez has been frying with it.
Yeah, but is it really better than the CBR?
Yes, I
The
think so.
CBR has
I think
better range, better
the-
accuracy, better sprint to fire, better sprint to ADS.
So I think
ADS is faster, reload is faster, almost everything are better.
I think overall it's probably map dependent because I would say the CBR or P90 as a lot of people will know it is a bit more versatile because it does have very reasonable recoil to deal with. What
I
just
think
to
people
clarify
just
that.
got misled by the infinite six shot range on the PPSH
Yeah,
because
I think
you're
in a
not going to be
close
hitting
range
shots
though, that
reliably.
thing has a
At a close
incredible time
range,
to
it is
kill.
incredible,
Yeah,
but it's not much faster than the CBR. The CBR is 800 RPM.
but the
The
CBR doesn't have
PPSH is
65 bullets.
it has 50. Does it really make a difference?
Hey, 15 more bullets can be 3 more kills.
15 more bullets can be useful. I agree, but it doesn't make that much a difference because you still have a big magazine.
Well, I
The
think
time to
because
kill
we're a
is not much
5v5, not a
different either.
4v4, probably is where the
Yeah,
bigger magazine
probably.
helps the most.
And then the CBR has better range. The CBR 4 shots more consistently because you only need 1 torso shot to 4 shot, whereas the PPSH you need 2 in chest or every single shot landing in the stomach versus or torso. So 4 shot is more consistent, range is better, recoil is better. There's one thing you can do though. PPSH, you could run absurdly fast with that gun. You could put the 35 round mag on and somehow still have a no stock and shortest barrel. I think it's called Gorilla.
For the light.
Yeah, the light barrel. You can run as fast as a knife with a full auto gun. It is incredible. You run like Usain Bolt.
That is
The
something that
downside
me
is
and
the
Verdict were
recoil is
talking about
really
the
bad.
other day is the PPSH introduced a lot of unique attachments to just that gun.
Yeah. I've tried something pretty insane. You could run a flash guard, the tough foregrip, the 5 milliwatt laser, and the light barrel for hipfire, and then you run a 35 round mag. What you have effectively got is you run way faster, you have 52% better hipfire spread. Like you can hipfire really far away, and you reload fast. It's just you can do some pretty crazy stuff with this gun, but those pretty crazy stuff, are they really competitive?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely hard to say. It does look like we have Verdict on Be Right Back mode for a second. I think we're probably at a good point, Path, because we've gone quite long to probably just go over this week's schedule. I don't know how much Europe you watch. I know you do follow a bit of NA, so we'll just knock Europe out probably once Verdict gets back, because obviously he's the Europe guy. So we'll go ahead and run through North America real quick. Let me see here. So I think our biggest matchups for this week, which is going to be what'll be tomorrow will be January 25th. So Tuesday, January 25th, guys, we've got I think a couple solid matchups with some better ones on Thursday even, but right out of the gate we're gonna have 11T versus Yo Mama. And I think that'll probably be the best match of the day. Um, what do you think, Path? Those are two teams you'll probably at least recognize 11T. Their roster is very similar.
Mhm.
Have you kept up enough to know what the Yo Mama roster looks like?
basically NYSL but slightly different. I think is that
Yeah, it's quite different than that. Again,
okay?
I know
I know
you weren't
Space is
working
in.
with it.
I know Space is in it. Rebalo is in it.
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot what
So
team it is on.
space and then kind of solar was like
Yeah, Solar.
partially with NYSL for a minute until obviously his other team was able to get that second life for stage 5. But it's space, Wally, solar, Deannabella, who is Teabag, Rabalo, Forsaken, and Pengi.
Pretty
And then
good.
yeah, and then for 11T, it's gonna be Yuhi, Weru, Pepe, yeah, ARP Pepe, Raven, Legacy, who you know,
Yeah.
Detri, and uh, Pelone.
Hmm.
So very
Tough to
similar.
tell.
I think the biggest thing for 11T is the loss of Zai. I don't know if obviously that's a pretty big change, but no Cheto in the mix for Zygnus, but instead have picked up Zai from 11T.
Hmm.
I think
I
that's
don't
gonna be a
know. It's
great
hard to
matchup.
tell. Yeah, it could be a great matchup.
Karma wants to know if you're gonna return to content creation.
Me, I'm in a kind of a
Don't
strange
yeah,
position.
don't feel the need to say too much on stream because obviously I kind of know the
Yeah,
background on
right.
that.
Okay, so I'm in a strange position where making content is my choices on the content I can make are very limited, but I can try to make something that's funny. I think I'll go branch a bit more towards funny. I'm thinking of making a video on character skins. Like
Interesting.
let's discuss the gender diversity in our character selection in this game.
Just for the fun of it, or are you
Yeah,
actually going to
did you
break down
did you
to
know
Urban
this
Tracker
game?
has a smaller hitbox than everybody else?
No. Did you know this game has male, female, unknown, transgender, unidentifiable, and trap and attack helicopter in terms of gender?
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
I play with a few players who actually identify as attack helicopters, so yes.
I'm trying to think of
very nice.
what's the in COD Mobile. What's the attack helicopter? The robot guy. I can't remember what his name is. In
Reaper
mobile.
and Ethan.
Yeah.
Reaper
Okay.
and Ethan. Yeah,
Yeah, Reaper.
these are
Yeah.
these are pretty easy to guess. What about the unidentifiable?
Do we need to put labels on that?
I
No, the
look,
gender
look.
is just called unidentifiable.
Listen. I want the video to happen,
Okay, I'll
and
try.
you slide in my DMs when it happens, and I'll retweet it. Verdict will retweet it, uh, and I will watch it start to finish. That
All
is
right.
a fact. Um, we're gonna go ahead and just burn through the rest of this week's matchups for NA real quick, and then we'll go over EU verdict, and then we'll get you out of here. Um, So our other matchups, I think, are a little less eventful on Tuesday. I think Thursday brings a little bit more to the table. But for Tuesday, obviously, we mentioned 11T versus Yomama, I think is going to be the best. I think Goofy Goobers versus Midnight has some potential to see how much Midnight can bring to a Tier 1 team, but I would fully expect Goofy Goobers to win that one. Zygnus versus Shreddit, I think, is probably just flat out Zygnus. But I think Rain versus Explicit has some potential to be quite good. And just to run through those rosters real quick, because I think it'll be good. Explicit is solo veteran snipes, Ingentic, Lucifer, Mercia, and Leon. And Rain is that's revenge. Rain. Rain is Mochila, aka Asta. Nerdy, who might be one of the most exciting players in all of NA voice comms. Yawn, Losty, Beetle, Phasey, and Devil. Um, so the likes of Asta, Phasey, Beetle, I think actually, and Yawn, I think actually are really solid talent that has undershined because of rosters they've they've been with, either not taking it seriously or maybe not being up to par with their talents. So I think that should be a pretty good matchup. No comment verdict?
No, I don't. I don't think it's going to be an interesting one. I think Explicit's going to be 2-0.
All right.
And
Well, all right. Well,
I
verdict
think
is.
I think as far as like competitive sake, it's certainly going to be a closer skill gap.
Yeah, I think
it's not
I'm
gonna
right
be
there with you.
close.
I think Explicit wins that.
Yeah.
But I think there's argument that Rain could make the matchups
No.
close. So it's probably going to be a 2-0, but
Mm.
I think they can. I think they'll surprise you. We'll see when we get there.
They're gonna have to do it in a hardpoint format, and that's just not happening. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not gonna happen on a search and destroy. Explicit is going to outright dominate them. And as much as I want it to be close, I just don't see that happening.
All right. Well, I think that one is a me and Bobby cast. So I expect you to fully be in chat cheering on Explicit.
I'm not cheering. That's just based off of what I've seen so far, unbiased opinion.
All right. Well, farm those tweet impressions tomorrow while you're watching. Then.
We'll see. I'm currently working on something else.
All right. Not going to go into depth on the teams for Thursday's match, but I am going to run through the four real quick. Rain versus Cygnus, Midnight versus Seminole, Shreddit versus Revenge, and Explicit versus Goofy Goobers. We'll talk a little bit more about that before Thursday's matchups. Obviously, that's a long ways away, and some of these teams have had roster changes, so a lot of that's going to depend on Tuesday.
I think that Shredded and Revenge matchup is going to be the only highlight matchup of the night.
I think that
Explicit and Goofy Goobers is going to be good.
I think those two matches will be good because the two teams are a very reasonably similar skill level. One of the matchups is reasonably at the top, and the other is reasonably at the lower middle. Is that a fair, nice way to put it?
Fair, yeah.
Okay. So for EU, which I don't think because of where we're at time wise right now, I don't think we need to break down too much. I don't think there's as much EU viewership right now. Gonna lead things off with Anarchy versus Nova. I think should be an absolute banger. Anarchy, the team that took down
100%.
Animus. Animus versus Elysium should absolutely be a Animus 2-0 victory. I want to believe in Elysium getting their crap together because they're a team that can frag out, but they just do not play the fucking objective, and they don't play as a team. So I don't have high hopes for that. Omni versus Aphelion, I would have said a couple weeks ago, is probably just Omni blowing Aphelion out of the water, but I still think that's the case, but Omni have certainly not been looking as convincing as they once upon a time were. And FN420 versus Illuminati, I'm going to lean FN420, but I think Illuminati can make it exciting. Is that a fair assumption?
I think that team's on the rise. I think they make it interesting. I think you got a great point there.
I don't think they win. I don't think Illuminati beats FN420.
I think they make it very interesting. I think they put up more of a fight than Omni did.
Yeah, I don't think they lose hardpoint like 250 to 50 or anything.
I agree.
Yeah. And then for Thursday, again, not going to break it down too much, but I think there is reason to believe that Illuminati versus 117 Not Found could be pretty reasonable.
True.
Again, a couple weeks ago, I would have said Omni versus Animus would be an absolute banger, but Omni has been looking a little bit down on their luck. Elysium versus Olympus is probably not in Elysium's favor.
No.
I was going to say maybe they can make it interesting there, but again, if they don't tighten up and show me something worth watching on Tuesday, then I don't have much faith for Thursday. And then Aphelion versus FN420 to round things out. So it'll be an interesting next week. We've got a couple really banger matchups each day for both regions, but I think that pretty much wraps it up for us, Verdict.
Yep, that's it.
Way longer than we originally wanted this to be. Way longer.
Well,
but the rule changes took us so long to get through.
True.
So. Anything you want to shout out as you close out, Path? Plug your YouTube or something.
Maybe I'll make the video.
All right, let me know when you make
I'll
it.
see.
I'll retweet it. I'll promote
Alright.
it. Whatever you need me to do. Um,
Right.
I'd be interested to see that because that's actually kind of one of those like weird, quirky trivia things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's going to be us signing out, guys. Thank you so much, Path, for joining us. Thank you, of course, always to you as well, Verdict. And thank you, of course, to all of the viewers over on YouTube and Trovo. And we'll see you guys next time and get you guys geared up for a raid.
All right.
Fire!